Welcome back to the channel, and today we have 4 knives, 4 rapid reviews. We're going to get started with the Ketuo. First up, we have the Ketuo Ventr. They sent this one home with me at Blade Show, and I was kind of interested in this. Even though I'm not a Tanto fan, I like drop point Tantos because they're a lot more versatile than just a regular old Tanto. That way I can still easily use the tip, and this one felt like it was ground pretty darn thin. Not to mention, it's using a button actuated liner lock, and I like those a good bit. I like the downward cant of that blade compared to the handle. It allows you to still do stuff on a flat cutting surface without hitting the handle or your knuckles. And it's a good size. It's coming in at 6.94 inches long and a 2.73 inch drop point Tanto blade of 14C 28N steel. The knife came wicked sharp out of box. And I was definitely interested to start doing some testing with this one. It does have jimping up top, but it's not the most aggressive jimping. Not something I really care about, but if you do, just know that. So I went right to the cardboard with this one, and this thing was gliding through the cardboard like nobody's business, and that's probably because it's 12 thousandths behind the edge, and the sharpened edge out of box was very good. And sometimes whenever it's slicing well in the cardboard, that doesn't mean it's going to translate well into the sisal rope, because it has to have a lot of bite to cut that type of rope. And we ended up going through all the other stuff, got the sisal rope, and I was very pleasantly surprised on how well this one sliced through the rope. And like I said, I like the fact that it's got a button actuated liner lock. You got this button right here, and hopefully you can see in there, this button has like a bar. It's hooked to the liner that goes a lot further than an actual liner lock, and it pushes that over. Now, I'm sure if you wanted to, you could do that manually, but it's a lot more comfortable and it's a lot more easy and safe, keeping your fingers out of the blade path when closing. The action on this thing is very nice, definitely fidgety. You can use that button to deploy it. It's riding on bearings, and yeah, so far I've been really enjoying it. It's very comfortable, especially for a flat scaled knife. I like the texture. You have like a 1911 style grip texture on the G10, then some ribbing here. It gives you plenty enough traction whenever you're holding on to it. And you have inset liners that are nested into the G10. Now, this right here is just a larger lanyard hole. And I think it's that big because there's no pocket clip to this one. And at first, that was a complete deal breaker for me. However, I ended up putting a carabiner like this. This is the most recent one I had on it, but I also had a very small one. And what I've been doing is just clipping it to my EDC backpack that goes with me pretty much everywhere. And I always have a knife on me because of this hook to that backpack. And if I want to, I can take this off and clip it to my belt loop if I needed to have it with me. So I would have definitely much rather it have a pocket clip, but being that it doesn't, I'm still able to use it with the carabiner. And after talking with them at Blade Show, I think they're going to be releasing one with a pocket clip. Here's a quick size comparison with the Ontario Rat 1 and 2. It's much more similar to the Rat 2. So real quick to go over the good. It's got good action, nice snappy action, fidgety. It's comfortable in hand for being flat scales. It's got enough grip to the scales. And it was a really good performer. And the 14C held up pretty darn nicely. And it wasn't too heavy. It's coming in at 3.2 ounces. That's a-okay for me. Now, my nitpicks on the knife, no pocket clip, of course. I don't love a blasted finish. However, I've carried this a good bit while sweating, and I haven't had issues yet. Hopefully that doesn't become an issue. I wish they would have extended the sharpening choil a little bit. However, I could fix that myself if I would like to. And lastly, all the hardware on this one is Torx T6, even the pivot. I don't love that at all, but for me, it's not really a deal breaker. And if all those things I just mentioned aren't deal breakers for you, I can definitely recommend this one. If you're interested in any of the knives that are in this video, they will all be linked down below. They will be affiliate links, so if you want to help support what I do here in this channel, helps me pay for my testing materials. If not, no biggie. Number 2, we have the Vosteed Mini Acorn. I reviewed the full-size Acorn on the channel a while back, and I absolutely love the Acorn. So I was excited to test this one out. And the Mini Acorn is definitely a little big knife because you do have a forward finger choil, allowing my medium-sized hands to get a nice full four-finger grip on a much more compact knife, coming in at 6.03 inches long, and it has a 2.46-inch drop point blade of 14C 28N steel. It also has that blasted stonewatch finish that I'm not super fond of, but no problems yet. The jimping up top works outstanding, and being this is a low tip drop point and it's a small blade, I can get right down onto that blade if I need to make nice intricate cuts And in typical Vosteed fashion, this one came so sharp out of box. All the knives that I've gotten from Vosteed have come sharper than pretty much any company that I've ever tested out of box. That full forward finger choil also acts as a large sharpening choil. You're going to get tons of sharpening light before it'll widen up on you. Now, even though you have a small blade and small cutting edge, you can still get a good bit of smaller tasks done. Break down a box, get into something, trace out something, you could do that. And this one's nice and thinly ground at around 13 thousandths behind the edge. So everything I threw at it, it did wonderful. The sisal rope, I think it did the best on that one. If I wanted to, I could put my finger on this jimping. It's that grippy and saw in motion, or just grip it in a pinch grip and push down. That sharp edge and that thinly ground blade allowed it to perform very nice. The 14C always holds up good on the Vosteeds for me. This one has dual deployment. You have a front flipper that works great, and you have that blade hold that works awesome as well. I can also slow roll it, or if I wanted to, I can do the spotty drop. Very smooth action, riding on ceramic bearings with a ceramic detent ball. Being that these scales are nice and contoured, the grip on this is very comfortable. I like how you have the accents to just give you a little pop of color. And you do have a lanyard tube that also gives you a pop of color. It's a deep carry pocket clip inset into the frame along with those screws. And it sits fairly deep. All you have is this portion sticking out. However, it is tip up right hand carry only. It's an inset liner lock, and there's your lock up there. Nice tight lockup for such a small little knife. Good access to that lock bar. Very comfortable to actuate. And then you have a partial liner on here trying to keep down the weight some. And this one's coming in at 2.72 ounces. Quick size comparison, we have the Cold Steel Tough Light, which is almost identical in length, and we have the Kaiser Mini Sheepdog, which is a little bit bigger. Nitpicks and complaints on this one, I would have preferred to have just a raw stone wash blade instead of a blasted stone wash. However, like I said, I haven't had any problems with corrosion, and they also do have a coated version of this as well. It's a Stormtrooper edition with white G10 and black blade. No lefty love on this one, and T6 body screws and clip screws. Not the end of the world. At least they have a T8 pivot. That said, I absolutely love this one. It's definitely grown on me a lot. I love the full size. But this one, I have a thing for the little big knives where I can still get a nice 4-finger grip. It's a very easy knife to carry. It's not going to scare anybody. And this one's only going to run you 49 bucks. I don't think that's all that bad. Next up, we have the Trivisa Aries. This is the largest knife today, coming in at 8.12 inches long, and it has a 3.56 inch blade of 14C 28N steel. I've tested quite a few Trivisas, and I like the way they perform the majority of the time. This one has an excellent utility style blade, great for doing tip work, and as you can see, it still has a nice fine tip, great for doing detailed work. And being that you have pretty much a straight edge, it's going to be a very powerful cutter. So excellent in the cardboard slicing department. This one has a black wash finish. They also have a non-coated version as well. It has a small patch of jimping that actually does an excellent job because it's nice and grippy fine cut jimping. Now, they could have extended it a little bit further. Not something I care about, but definitely could have done that. It looks like an eagle or something in the open position. This one sliced very well also because it has a nice hollow grind on it. This one's coming down to around 14 thousandths behind the edge. Came wicked sharp. And the funny thing about this one is I did a bunch of testing with this one while I was in Idaho, and that footage was deleted. I probably accidentally deleted it. I don't know how it got deleted. So I decided, being that I'm going to be reviewing it, I had to test it again so I could get a little bit of footage. If I show it, I don't know. But all I did was drop it, and it went through the same gamut as the rest of the knives, and it did really, really well. This one had the most comfortable handle out of all of them. It has a lot to do with being nice and contoured and softened, plus it's a bigger handle. So it's nice and comfortable. I was able to get a lot of force into anything I was cutting. Now, you're still able to make cuts on a flat cutting surface because this straight edge, if you look at it like this, is canting up. So it still allows me to get, I don't know, about probably that much of the edge onto the cutting surface before this flipper tab hits whatever you're doing. Could always lift it up on a block or something if I needed to, but I think it did a good enough job for everything that I use it for. The coating held up well. I don't think any of it's worn off, and like I said, I did 2 sets of testing with this one. This one has dual deployment with a flipper tab with jimping, and this thing rockets out, at least on mine. Super smooth once you release that button lock, and you also have that blade hole that I can reverse flick, and let's see, and I can thumb flick it, slow roll it. Now, the hole's not the easiest to get to, so if you have fat sausage fingers, it may be a little difficult for you, but now that I'm used to it, I can do it pretty much every time. It's almost like this button lock has a detent because it just fires out so hard. And like I said, very smooth action because it's riding on ceramic bearings. The mic-card on this one, nice and grippy stuff, nice and soft to the touch. They have a lanyard hole, reversible deep carry pocket clip. Now the nitpicks and complaints on this one, I wish they would have given us a little bit better sharpening choil. As you can see, it's going to start flaring out almost immediately. Now that is something I could easily fix because you don't have to worry about the stop pin. It's up here in the front of the flipper tab. And lastly, they have T6 body screws and clip screws. I would have loved to see T8 throughout. And this one is the most expensive. Now, it is the biggest, so I don't think it's really out of line at 60 bucks. Sometimes you can find them on sale. But if none of that stuff bothers you, I could definitely recommend this one. I've really enjoyed it. I probably cut my own sharpening choil in once I sharpened this one. And all in all, it was a great little EDC knife that sliced well, comfortable in hand, great action. And last, we had the Vosteed Corgi Pup in the Damascus blade. I already reviewed the Corgi Pup with the satin blade, and I probably carry the Pup more than I do the full size. I guess just because it's a lot easier to carry. I can drop it in the pocket. It doesn't take up much space. It's not super heavy or anything. This new Damascus one has that same great action, no matter which deployment, the front or the back. Very nice. You could also use that button if you wanted to. They went with a dark etch on this Damascus, and I'm not certain what core Damascus this is, but if I had to take a guess, it's probably VG10. It performed really, really well. It's got a nice slicey blade, 13 thousandths behind the edge, and once again, Vosteed did not disappoint. This one came with a remarkable edge out of box. You still have enough usable edge to pretty much do whatever you need to, and the versatility of that short blade, I can easily use that tip to drag cuts, or I can put my finger in there if I need to poke through something and I don't want it to go deeper than that. I just use my finger to see the depth control on the blade. There's no jimping up top, but I didn't find it necessary, and you have a nice needle-like point to do those drag cuts, and that's something this thing shines at. This is the smallest one, coming in at 5.9 inches long, and these have a 2.35 inch drop point blade, like I said earlier, with that dark etched Damascus blade. Now, I'll probably have to go back and test this one again, but this one, the Damascus seemed to hold an edge better, a good bit better than this one, and this one did really well also, so I have to go back because it's just hard for me to recall that, and I like to do the side-by-side thing with them. Now, these have a okay sharpening choil. You can see it. It's you might have a little bit, but it looks like it's going to start flaring after. It's hard to tell because it's too dark. You might have a couple of sharpenings. It looks like that plunge comes down about right here. But definitely something that I can fix because this is one of the track lock button locks, and it just means they have that track on the inside, so I don't have to worry about the stop pin in the closed position. This one has some nice, very grippy black canvas micarta, nice softened edges on them, and it has the titanium inlay on both sides. You have the reversible deep carry pocket clip and the filler tab on this side. And on the Corgi Pup, you have a Torx T8 for your pivot and your one body screw. Your clip screws are the only T6 you have. I'm definitely okay with that. Action on these is very nice, being that you have a very neutral handle. It's nice and comfortable. Now, I get a 4-finger grip on it with my medium-sized hands. If you have large hands, then you might want to move up to the full-size Corgi. I think it's a nice-looking knife. It performs well, and it's an easy one to carry. Quick size comparison, we have the Cold Steel Tough Light, which is a little bit bigger, and then we have the Kaiser Laib, which is almost identical in length. My nitpicks and complaints: I don't love the dark etching look on Damascus. I much prefer like a polish. Wish they would have opened the sharpening choil up a little bit, but like I said, I could do that myself. Now, this one is a little pricey, being that it has the Damascus blade. I'm sure that's why. And the titanium inlay. These come in at $89. But if you don't want to pay that, like I said, I really enjoy the regular Corgi as well. And this one's in 14C, satin blade, orange G10, titanium inlays on both sides. Both have the same beautiful action. They carry the same. One's in Damascus and micarta. One's in satin and G10. This one, I forget the price on it, but I know it's a decent bit cheaper than the Damascus one. But if none of these were deal breakers that I talked about on this one, definitely could recommend it if the price is good with you. If not, like I said, this one is cheaper and I like both of them. Well, here's another shot of them open. If any of these interest you, like I said earlier, they will be linked down in the description. If you have any questions, comments, concerns about anything in particular, feel free to ask me down below and I'll do my best to get back with you. I hope every one of y'all is having an absolute amazing day, and I will see y'all on the next one. Nice!